By episode 3, you're genuinely questioning your life choices. By episode 5, you've accepted them. By episode 12, you are devastated that it is over. That is the High School of the Dead experience. And somehow, that chaotic, unhinged, absolutely unfiltered disaster of a formula produced one of the most talked about anime of its generation. Don't believe me? Right now, as of 2026, High School of the Dead has over 1.6 million members on my anime list. That makes it the 82nd most popular anime of all time on the platform. Not of its era, of all time. More popular than a lot of shows that actually finished their story. 12 episodes, one season, released in the summer of 2010, and it has never come back. Now imagine if this show had just kept going, if it had gotten even two or three more seasons to finish what it started, we could be talking about this anime the same way we talk about Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan. Probably, but instead, it ended on a cliffhanger. Then the manga went on a hiatus that lasted years. Then, in 2017, the writer, Daisuke Sato, passed away from heart disease. And just like that, the story died with him. No ending, no closure, no season 2. 16 years later, people are still adding this anime to their lists, still asking what could have been. So today, for those of you who haven't seen it, and for those who just want to relieve the chaos, we're recapping the entire anime. From the absolute madness of episode 1 to that brutal cliffhanger that went nowhere. This is High School of the Dead. Let's get into it. We open with our main character, Takashi Komuro, having what I'd personally describe as the worst Monday in recorded human history. He just got dumped, his childhood friend Rei Miyamoto, the girl he's been in love with forever, is now dating his best friend Hisashi. So Takashi is already emotionally destroyed before a single zombie shows up. He's brooding on the staircase like a proper anime protagonist. And then things get significantly worse. A stranger appears at the school gate, moving wrong, banging his head like something's broken inside him. A teacher, probably trying to look tough in front of his colleagues, grabs the guy and gets bitten and dies and gets back up. And that's it. That's how it starts. Not with a dramatic announcement or a government warning, just a teacher getting eaten at a school gate while everyone stares in confusion. The school PA system crackles to life. Violence has broken out on campus. Please evacuate according to your teacher's instructions. And then silence. And then a scream. A real one. And then pure panic. Takashi grabs Rei and Hisashi follows, and they fight their way toward the rooftop. But here's the thing. Hisashi is a black belt, a legit martial artist, and he decides that means he doesn't need a weapon. He'll just use his hands. You can probably guess where this is going. Yeah, he gets bitten and he turns. And Takashi, who has to watch his best friend become something unrecognizable, has to be the one to end it. Rei absolutely breaks down. She lashes out at Takashi, blames him, and then immediately takes it back. In Takashi's head, we get this quiet, devastating internal monologue. The world came crashing down. I killed my best friend, and I held the girl I loved for the very first time. Just like that, this show tells you exactly what it is. It's not just zombies, it's grief and timing and everything you wish you'd said before the world ended. As chaos swallows the school, we start meeting the rest of our core crew, and the show does something really smart with how it puts them together. First up is Saya Takagi. She's the genius, sharp, arrogant, and almost always right. She's the kind of person who figures out the rule of zombie apocalypse through sheer observation, noticing that the zombies don't respond to sight or smell. They react purely to sound. That's the key discovery that keeps this groove alive early on. Then there's Kota Hirano, the gun nerd, the otako, the guy everyone underestimated. And in the zombie apocalypse, This is the guy who matters the most. Kota's obsession with military hardware means he can literally build a gun from scratch using a nail gun. His nerdiness becomes his superpower, which is honestly one of the more satisfying character arcs in the show. And then there's Saiko Busujima, third year student, president of the Kendo Club, and without question, the most terrifying fighter in the entire group. She starts with a wooden bokken, a practice sword, and she is devastating with it. She's calm, she's precise, and she clearly loves combat in a way that unsettles even her own teammates. We'll get to that later. Rounding out the group is the school nurse Shizuka Marikawa, who drives like an absolute maniac and provides medical support. Together, they manage to escape Fujimi High School, barely, and get their hands on a bus. From the rooftop, they can see the city. Tokyo is burning. Beijing is burning. London is holding, barely. The news is reporting that the White House has been evacuated. The world isn't just ending in Japan, it's ending everywhere. The middle stretch of the anime is basically a survival road movie. The group moves through the city, a city that's falling apart not just because of zombie but because of people. And this is where High School of the Dead earns its darker edge. The show is very direct about something that a lot of zombie stories dance around. The living are often more dangerous than the dead. You've got survivors hoarding resources. You've got authority figures like the deeply slimy teacher Shido, who used the crisis to seize control, building little cults of followers who worship them out of fear. Shido is one of those villains you just know is wrong the second he opens his mouth. He kicks an injured student while they are running towards the bus, and Ray wants absolutely nothing to do with him. And she's right. But the show doesn't just make the danger external. It also forces each character to interrogate who they are when the rules are gone. Take Saiko's confession, one of the most psychologically interesting moments in the anime. She tells Takashi that before all of this, she was attacked by a man trying to assault her. She defended herself, brutally, before the police arrived. She was never charged. She acted in self defense. But she admits to Takashi that in that moment, she didn't just feel fear or relief. She felt enjoyment. She liked it. She's been carrying the truth about herself ever since. And the zombie apocalypse hasn't horrified her the way it's horrified everyone else. It's given her a world that part of her fits perfectly. And that terrifies her. Takashi doesn't judge her. He accepts her, and in doing so, unlocks something in Psycho that makes her even more formidable. She stops holding back. She stops apologizing for what she is. It's dark character work, and it's the kind of depth the show was genuinely capable of when it wasn't busy with other things. The group eventually makes it to the home of Saya's parents, a fortified estate run by her father, a powerful local figure who has managed to keep a community of survivors organized and armed. This section of the anime is important for one big reason. It shows what functional post apocalyptic survival actually looks like. There's structure here, there's leadership, there are rules, and there's hope, for maybe the first time since the outbreak began. The group gets to breathe. Saya reunites with her parents. The emotional payoff of that reunion, given everything Saya has been through and how hard she works to hide how scared she actually is, lands really well. But nothing peaceful lasts long in this show. Outside the walls, the world keeps decaying, and within the group, there are fractures forming. Old feelings between Takashi and Rei, unresolved tension, everyone processing trauma in their own broken way, but the fan service is on top. The show is building towards something. You can feel it. And then it stops. The anime ends with the group making a decision to move forward together. They survive one final wave of the undead. They stand on the other side of it, blooded, exhausted, still alive, and the screen fades to black. That's it. No resolution for the Shido storyline. No answer about what caused the outbreak. No conclusion to the Takashi and Rei situation. No payoff for Saiko's arc. The manga had more story, more characters, more confrontations, more answers, but the anime only adapted the first 17 chapters. There was more to tell, but only a little. The manga went on hiatus in 2013. Daisuke Sato passed away in 2017, and illustrator Shoji Sato, in a 2019 interview, said it plainly. Thinking about Daisuke Sato makes me think I cannot carelessly get involved. Out of respect for his collaborator, his friend, the story ends where it ended. Here's the thing about High School of the Dead that I think people sometimes miss underneath all the obvious stuff and the fan service. This show, 12 episodes, made in 2010 by Madhouse, had something genuinely rare. It had an aesthetic that was completely its own. Tetsuro Araki directed it, the same guy who later did Attack on Titan, and the action sequences still hold up. It had characters with real psychological weight when the writing wanted to dig in. It asked serious questions about morality, survival, and who you become when everything around you collapses. Over 1.6 million people on my anime list have it on their list. It still ranks in the top 100 most popular anime ever tracked on the platform 16 years later. If this show had continued, if Daisuke Sato had gotten to finish what he started, we might be talking about it the same way we talk about the great ones. Instead, it's this, a brilliant, chaotic, unfinished thing that the anime community quietly refuses to let go of. Probably because of the fan service again. And honestly, that says a lot. If you watch it for the first time because of this video, leave it in the comments. And if you've been sitting with that cliffhanger for years like the rest of us, you already know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and stay hydrated. Bye.